Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. Here we are, you and me, for a special episode today. Oh boy, we are talking about me, my messy middle recovery from chronic hip pain. Um, as you know, this is a show where we talk about how to heal from chronic pain and chronic symptoms using psychological and emotional modalities. Most people don't even know that's possible, but you know that's the thing. You know that it is. Okay, so you all like the messy middle content that I have found to be the truth. One of the most listened to episodes of this show is the messy middle with my client Michelle. And if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and scroll back. If you haven't heard that one, that was season 2, episode 1. That was a very good one. And yes, we talked all about her messy middle in that one. And today, we're talking about mine. We're talking about the messy middle again today, and we are doing mine. Um, okay. I'm going to start this off by saying this. Isn't it great to hear stories like, I had problems, then I did this thing, I transformed, and I don't have problems anymore? Isn't that a great story? Cinderella, for example, a good example for me to draw from because that was my gay ass's favorite movie as a kid, so I know that plot inside and out. Cinderella's story was that I had a problem. She was being abused by her stepmother. Then she did this thing. She went to the ball. She met the prince. They fell in love. They got married. She is now transformed into a princess, and she doesn't have problems anymore. Cinderella lives happily ever after. It's a captivating story, but not all stories are like that. Not all stories are like that. And even if your story is going to end with a happily ever after, or at least even if there are going to be several happy parts to your story, not all parts of the story are the happily ever after part, right? Some parts of the story, some parts are the sobbing on the garden bench wishing you could go to the ball part. Some parts are the running from the ball part, the losing your shoe part, the praying no one sees your gown fade away as you transform back into a peasant girl dressed in rags part. Some parts are the locked in the attic part, the wishing your little animal friends would hurry up and get you out of here before it's too late for you to claim your new life as the prince's bride. Some parts are that part. Some parts are even, if you're thinking of the Disney version of Cinderella, which I obviously am because that is the version of the story with which I am most familiar, some parts are even just a bunch of mice running around clowning the stepmother's cat, right? Okay, those are parts of the story too. Those are parts of the story too. So I'm saying some parts of the story are the messy middle. Some parts of the story are the messy middle. And you folks listening, you're probably, many of you, in a messy middle of your own. Lord knows, I know the feeling. And that is why I'm going to share with you today my messy middle recovery from chronic hip pain. All right. What is a messy middle? I had never heard that term outside of Nicole Sachs and her descriptions of people who are like in the process of healing from chronic pain. In the process, healing pain, healing symptoms, not fully recovered yet, but they know what's going on. They're on the journey. They're learning, they're growing, they're doing the emotional and psychological work necessary to heal, but they're not there yet. They don't feel recovered. They don't feel healed. That is the messy middle. And, like I said, I didn't know that was a term outside of, like, Nicole Sachs using it. That's literally the only place I'd ever heard it, but what I know now is that the term "messy middle" is actually used in many contexts. I, looked this up. Google, I have learned, uses the term "messy middle" to describe the process, a consumer goes through when they've, like, realized they want something, but they haven't yet made a purchase. That can be considered a messy middle. And, other people talk about the messy middle in business building or product development or, whatever else. So a lot of people acknowledge a messy middle in a lot of different ventures, which is news to me. But today we are, of course, talking about the messy middle in the realm of healing chronic pain. So I've had this idea for a while now to do this episode about my messy middle, and I've been dragging my feet. I've been like, I can't record this. And it's so telling because, if my hip is doing well, I'm like, I can't record this because I'm basically healed. Like, I'm not in the messy middle anymore. It's too late. Like, I missed it. I'm basically healed and I'm like done with my chronic pain. And then when my hip is hurting, I'm like, I obviously can't do this. I can't record a messy middle because I'm still, after all this time, I'm still at square one. This doesn't work for me. Middle, I'm not in any kind of middle. I'm screwed. My pain is here now. I am fucked. This works for other people. This works for clients of mine. This works for my IBS, but this doesn't work for my hip. This does not work for my hip. And I can't record a podcast about my messy middle. Right. So, folks, um, how messy middle is that? Right? Like this is the real deal here. This is some messy middle realness, and we are leaning into it today because I have to do it sometimes. So why not today? Okay, okay, okay. Before I get into my story, I'm going to hit you with this. Leave a rating or review for the podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a rating or review. That would be much appreciated. Um, your ratings and reviews help to legitimize this podcast. The ratings and reviews help to legitimize mind body work for other people who find it for their chronic pain and their chronic symptoms. Ratings and reviews obviously legitimize me. They make me feel legitimate and they help me feel good about myself. And don't you want me to open up my podcast app and check on the podcast and get a little smile on my face because I see a rating and review from you, right? And even if you don't love the podcast, like say you think it's okay and you don't want to give it 5 stars, that's totally fine. Give it 4, give it 3, hell, give it 2 or give it 1. All attention is good attention, all engagement is good engagement, so please, you are invited to engage. On Apple Podcasts, you go to the show homepage, scroll down to the stars, give the show some stars, and then it also says write a review. You can click that and write a review. Spotify, again, go to the show homepage. Near the top, there's a little settings gear. Next to it, there's 3 dots. Click the 3 dots. A few options will come up. One will be rate podcast. And there you go. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I deeply appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. My hip pain. Here we go. My hip pain. Because, like I said, many times I'll be like, I'm pretty much out of chronic pain. And then many times I'm like, no, no, I am not. So, messy middle. I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back to 2008, spring of 2008. I'm 19 years old. I'm a student at Beloit College, a lovely little place in Beloit, Wisconsin, and I am still in the closet. And I have had 19 years of emotional repression, and I've had a life of sexual repression, and the cap is just about to blow off of all of that. So, at age 19, I was just about to go study abroad, and, I literally had the plan, when I study abroad, like, that is where I am going to easily be able to, I can just, like, start being gay there. It'll be a complete break with my old life. No one will know me. It'll be great. I don't have to, like, go through the awkward, like, "I know I said I was straight. I lied. I was too scared and too weak to just be real and honest and say that I'm gay and blah, 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 blah." I wouldn't have to go through any of that. I could just be gay when I arrived in Ireland, which was, where I was going to study abroad. So life was about to change. I was scared, of course. I was scared, but I was also ready. I was beyond ready. I was so sick of being in the closet. I was so, 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 so done. I was so done. Um, and yet, even though I was so ready, I was still waiting. Now, could I have come out right then and there in that last semester before I left to go to Ireland? I sure could have. Would that have been totally fine? Aside from having to deal with the emotional discomfort, absolutely yes. It would have been materially totally fine to come out as gay any day in that semester, any day, but I didn't do it even though I wanted to, because I also didn't want to, because I was scared. Internal conflict, right? Internal conflict. Yes, you can see that. So it's spring. I'm 19 years old. And every spring, Beloit College, I wonder if they still do this. In those days, every spring, there was a day that, I believe if I remember this correctly, like, this is how it would go. The day would, be announced randomly. Like, it would always come in spring, but, like, you didn't know it was coming until a few days before, and then the school would announce, like, "Students, listen up. You just got lucky because this week, this Wednesday, or whatever day it would be, this is gonna be spring day." And all the students would be like, "Oh, fuck yeah." Because spring day meant classes were canceled. Randomly, one day in the spring, just all classes canceled. And there were always big ragers thrown the night before spring day that would be like haphazardly planned and thrown together super quick. And the way that, college students can really pull through to plan a great party on short notice and then like procrastinate on literally everything else. Um, Beloit was a small school, but the party scene was mighty, friends. The party scene was lit, I would say. We had a good time. Like, we definitely had a good time. Like, if you want a scene of, like, semi-intellectual kids who, like, didn't get into the Midwest's premier liberal arts colleges like Oberlin or McAllister or Grinnell or Carleton, but, like, these kids know how to fucking throw down, then Beloit College is the place for you. And, the awesome thing is you don't have to waste all your waking hours in the goddamn library because, like, I mean, it was rigorous, sure, but, like, it's not that serious. It is not that serious, and isn't that how, life should be anyway? Alright, so spring day 2008 comes. My friends and I all go out and party the night before. No hip pain. None. I've literally never heard of that before. I wake up the day of spring day. No hip pain. None. Again, I have literally never heard of that before. And it's warm, and the light is streaming through the window. I can remember, I mean, I was 19 years old, but I remember that room very vividly, like the way I had it set up. I remember it very clearly. And my roommate was gone, so I had the room to myself. And I've always been one to enjoy yoga and stretching. So I was like, I know how I'm going to start off my spring day. And I honestly, I don't think I even, like, owned a yoga mat at that time. Like, young people are so, like, careless in some ways, and I was no exception. And also, you can afford to be so careless when you don't have chronic pain and chronic symptoms. But that was all about to change. That was all about to change. So, I'm doing my yoga and I'm doing my stretching, and, I'm a pretty flexible person, as you can see from the pic, if you can see the picture from this, podcast cover, more on that as we go. Um, but I'm a pretty flexible person, and, you get that way by pushing yourself a little bit. And, sometimes I get impatient and push myself a lot. But I remember that morning of spring day. I was doing my yoga, then I go about my day. And I remember my friends and I went on a long walk to get ice cream, which, like, as well as I remember this, I do not know where that would have been. Like, where would we have walked to that day? I do not know. But I remember a long walk to get ice cream. And then I remember that night. So, that night, this is kind of nuts to put this in perspective because something that has become such a part of the fabric of my life, something that has become so normalized and so painful, literally painful for years, years turned into decades. That night, my left hip started hurting. It was like my left hip and left lower back, it started hurting. And I was like, well, that walk that walk kind of fucked me up, and probably with the yoga in the morning combined with the long walk in the afternoon, like, that fucked me up. So, I go to sleep that night with the full belief that this pain would go away relatively soon, which now I'm like, "Wow." I had the full belief that my hip pain would go away relatively soon in the spring of 2008 when I was 19 years old. I'm now 38. It is 2026. I'm 38 years old, and I am right now recording a podcast about chronic pain because this is what my life has been like. And I'm telling you today the story of my messy middle recovery now, today. It's been so many years. I'm telling you, this recovery isn't even over yet. This pain isn't even fully gone, not even now, not even after all these years, not even in the recent years after all this healing. This pain isn't even fully gone. This shit is powerful. Like, this stuff messes a person up. Life in a body is hard, especially when you've been through trauma, especially when you've been taught to negate yourself and you've been taught to make yourself small and, just in order to keep yourself safe, especially when you've been taught to hate your body and repress yourself. Like, that's the thing. You listening to this podcast, what this feels like. And I didn't know. At age 19, I did not know. I thought I could just go on living with all this unconscious emotional baggage under the surface that I was barely aware of, some of which I was actually not aware of at all. Like, I did not know at all. Um, and I didn't know. Like, I don't even know how to describe to you the depths of what I did not know at that time, but, like, you can see the basics. I did not know. So that is spring day. The next day, I wake up. Spring day is over. We were back to classes again. It's like any regular day, and my hip was still hurting. And I was like, that's weird. It'll maybe like, I don't know, maybe I just need to rest it and like not walk too much and not stretch and take a break, from yoga, and it'll heal up and go away. Another day, still there. Another day, still there. Another day, still there. Still there, still there, still there. So that summer, I was back home in St. Paul, and that was like, I started going to a chiropractor because I was like, something is wrong with my hip and my lower back. And, that's what my parents proposed as the best solution was the chiropractor. And of course, like that makes sense if you don't know how to deal with chronic pain and you don't know what it really is. And most people do not know how to deal with chronic pain and they don't know what it really is. That's the best solution you have. So that's what I did. And, the chiropractor did not make much of an impact, but that was when I was like, "Well, I guess I really need to, like, give up." Like, I have to be very careful with walking, certainly very careful with running. I have to give up any stretch that involves my hip, and, I have to be very careful with sitting because, like, my hip hurt really bad when I sat. All that limiting stuff, all that limiting myself that got started. And so time passed, and so the hip pain stayed. I went to Ireland, came out as gay. No one was surprised. No one cared. It was totally fine. And the hip pain stayed. Now I have an understanding of why. When the pain first came on, it came on for emotional reasons, and now I know the hip pain stayed because at this point in the story, like, at this point where I had come out of the closet, I had made that public, even though the main emotional trigger that I really believe caused the hip pain in the first place, that was more or less resolved. Now at this point in the story, I had the fear of the pain. Now I had the belief that my left hip was my bad hip, and I had the feeling every time I would feel any sensation in my hip, I would tense up, I would guard, I would tell myself like, "No, no, 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 no," like, "Danger, danger, danger," and I would avoid all these activities, and I was stuck in the psychological side of the pain now. You see the difference? Like, emotional and psychological. Both processes are at play with chronic pain and symptoms, and so that is why both emotional and psychological work are needed in order to heal. Also, at that point in the story, there was still a ton of self-repression, a ton of suppressing my needs to get along with others, a ton of me not knowing or honestly even caring who I really was and, knowing or caring what I really wanted, just wanting to fit in and wanting people to like me, that was what I cared about, and, I still have work to do on that front, most of us do, but, that is the patiently attuning to your true self part of healing. So, all 3 parts, psychological, emotional, and, attuning to my true self, all parts are active in this hip pain situation. And life goes on. Lots of stuff happens, blah, 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 and the hip pain is always in the background. Always, always, always in the background. During that time, I developed, much worse problems actually with IBS. That was really bad. I'm not gonna tell that whole story today. We're not, gonna go deep with that. We're talking about the hip pain today, but if you want to hear the IBS story, you can. There's a whole podcast on that. That's season 4, episode 12, My Recovery from Chronic IBS, and you can hear all about that if you would like to. But okay. During this time, I was in and out of chiropractors here and there for the hip. I would do a little physical therapy here and there. I, wore this little thing in my shoe for a while on one side to correct for a leg length discrepancy. Like, I did a lot of things. Like, the hip pain did not take over my life and ruin my life, but it was always lingering. And if I did certain stretches or anything, my hip would flare up bad, and I'd be like, "Damn." Like, I'd be like, "Remember when I used to be able to fucking do the splits? Like, what happened to that version of me? Like, that was awesome. Now I'm fucking old." This, mind you, is me in my 20s. Now I'm fucking old. I have fucking hip problems, and none of these chiropractors or physical therapists can fix me. Now I have to, you know, take it easy and, anytime I really, like, would do anything, run, certainly challenge myself in yoga, which feels like fun, like, stuff that I like. Um, as they say in the TMS neuroplastic healing world, like, the pain hits you where it hurts the most. Something that used to be fun and something that I was good at is now, gone. It's gone, and I can't do it because it, flares my hip pain really bad, and something is wrong with my hip. So, yeah, there were many, many, many years like that, years where the hip pain was, just a shitty fact of life, and it made my life low-key a little shitty. I did, though, have other problems at the time that were worse, but the hip pain was always there. So many years pass like this. I go from being in my 20s to being in my 30s, and, then, the pandemic hits. When the pandemic hit, the hip pain became bad. Suddenly, it was COVID. So before I settled into, like, the fun, relaxed, working from home, much more chill life that I ended up actually enjoying, which, yes, I am the type of person who enjoyed COVID, and I will also name that I had the privilege to enjoy it and the privilege, thank God, to have no one close to me die in the pandemic, thank God. But, before I got to what I considered to be the good phase of the pandemic, um, I was afraid I was gonna die. I was legitimately afraid I was gonna die. I was working at a hospital clinic when COVID hit as a social worker. The hospital was so mm, these places, dude, these fucking places, man, the hospital literally was threatening the social work staff, and I say threatening and I mean threatening, saying that if our productivity numbers weren't high enough, they would redeploy as if we're in the military, to the front lines of the, like, COVID response at the hospital. That was terrifying. There were literally refrigerator trucks parked around the hospital to store the dead bodies, okay? I remember the first employee at my hospital to die of COVID was a gay male nurse around my age, and I was like, "I'm going to die." And I will tell you my productivity numbers were very high at that time out of I was in absolute fear. Like, I made sure to keep busy, 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 and keep those therapy sessions running on time, keep everything nice and tight, keep that schedule full, and bill, 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 because that is all these big healthcare operations care about anyway. So I was like, "Okay, I can play that game if, literally if the other option is death, like, I can play that Hunger game, you know?" And my hip was hurting bad. And I was like, "In the middle of all this, my hip is hurting bad, and it must be my new." I'm working from home, which is like I started on the most uncomfortable chair and I was like, I need a better setup. And I thought it was about that. I was like, I need a better chair. And maybe these headphones, like being strapped into the computer all day is like obviously not good for me. Um, and I couldn't go to my once a week chiropractic adjustments that I had been going to. So I thought that was obviously messing my hip up. And this is a sad one to me. This is a sad one. It was very hard to get a good angle to massage my hip myself. So I would ask my boyfriend at the time we lived together, my ex-boyfriend, I would ask him to massage my hip at night sometimes. And he honestly would roll his eyes and act very annoyed and put upon, and I would be like, "You know what? Never mind. Like, if it's gonna be like that, never fucking mind." So I was not in a great place. And I did not know that my hip was hurting because of all the emotional and psychological issues. I did not know that. Now, you can hear in this story, I hope you can hear this. You can hear how there are physical things going on, like the low quality chair I was sitting on, the break in my routine with chiropractic adjustments, that yes, there were physical things going on. And you can hear there were major psychological and emotional factors here as well. I think I'm going to die. The relationship issues, the stress of working and being treated like a disposable human garbage social worker. Um, Also this. Never overlook, even though this was a very stressful time, it was also a slowing down. Because other than work, there wasn't much to do, like no commuting, not much socializing. So never overlook the fact that sometimes when life slows down, emotions and internal conflict can rise much more easily because you have space, you have time. TMS flares can absolutely happen when life slows down. And life was both very stressful, very scary, and it was slowing down. So you can see I thought my hip was hurting because of the bad desk chair and because I couldn't get to the chiropractor. And this is my bad hip anyway. I had that belief. And, I had the belief that I never recovered from whatever mysterious injury I got at age 19. So I was thinking totally physically only. I was stuck in that one element. I did not connect the emotional and psychological to the hip at all. Did not connect it. So that was 2020. Then, more years go by, more stuff happens, life shifts, things go on, and the hip continues to cause problems. Like, it was not getting better. And I was still working out because I enjoy working out, but I was, like, limiting myself a lot with hip movements, leg movements. I had some exercises that I had done with, like, the lower back and hip involved, um, and I had to completely stop all that because my hip would hurt so much, like, so much that I literally couldn't do it. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I could sort of struggle through. It was like I could not do it. And I remember thinking like, "Wow, I used to be able to do that machine over there." And I would watch other people do that machine over there, and I'd be like, "Damn, remember when I could do that machine over there?" And, like, not even really think much of it? Like, sure, my hip would hurt a little bit, but, like, not like this. My hip did not hurt like this. Like, what has happened to me? You know the feeling. So it was getting really bad. And time marches on. I saw a few different providers, and I don't even remember clearly what was what and who was who, but, my hip took me to some chiropractor's offices and the such. Someone told me no workouts allowed. No workouts where one foot and leg is in front of the other. So, like, no walking lunges, no lunges, period. No split squats where, like, one foot is on a bench and the other's on the floor. Nothing. Nothing where one leg is not perfectly in line with the other, which, that had me really scared, and I was, like, trying to keep my legs perfectly symmetrical at all times because I thought my hip was too weak to take any, like, movement, especially if it was bearing any weight. And now that I know what I know, I'm like, "How do these professionals get away with saying stuff like this?" Like, that is not only so unhelpful, it's also a step further than that. It's massively counterproductive because it makes my fear worse. It makes my fear of activities worse. It makes my fear of my body worse. It makes my fear of any little sensation that might come up while working out worse, which makes pain and symptoms worse. Folks, we are living in the dark ages when it comes to chronic pain treatment. These are professionals, degrees from schools, licensed by states, salaried by healthcare groups. They are in the dark ages. Be careful out there. I will say this with a caveat, not everything is TMS. Go to the doctors, trust the people, and some things are TMS. And most providers just don't know and they can't help you. So you have to go into medical situations with your knowledge. You have to go into medical situations with your knowledge, especially if you have chronic pain and symptoms. And I feel crazy saying stuff like this because there's so much medical misinformation, excuse me, out there. There's so much medical misinformation. And I feel like I'm one of those like make America healthy again crazies who's like, don't trust anyone, don't trust the doctor, don't get your vaccines. I'm telling you, I'm not. This isn't medical misinformation. I don't know how to prove to you that it's not, but you can prove it to yourself, actually. You can prove it to yourself if you feel shifts in your own body. Also, you'll know if the provider's treatments don't work for you. You will know because you will feel that in your body too. Okay. So, at that time, I was in the dark ages too. Like, the professionals were in the dark ages, and so was I. So then, in October of 2022, my friend and colleague, Laura Pearl, mentioned Nicole Sachs to me and the Cure for Chronic Pain Retreat. And I was like, hmm. And I went to Nicole Sachs's website, and her website at that time had a big banner headline that said, "The pain is not in your head, but the solution is not in your body. The pain is not in your head, but the solution is not in your body." And I was like, wow. Yes. Wow. Like that resonated. And I was like, do you think that might apply to my hip? Do you think that might apply to me? And that night, I was walking to the gym that night, and my hip felt notably looser, like notably a little more chill. And I was like, is this for real? So this was the beginning of a massive shift. And I fucking dove in. So the first thing I did was I started Nicole Sachs's Journal Speak method, and I binged her podcast, and I loved her podcast. I fully binged it, not knowing that someday I would have a podcast too, which I'm like, how cute is that, right? So I was learning. I started learning, like, you have to believe to make the pain go away. You have to have confidence and faith that this will work. You have to stop fearing the pain. You have to stop living in so much fear because chronic pain is maintained by fear, not by something being structurally wrong with your body. So I learned that. I learned you have to do the work and get your emotions out because chronic pain is coming from your repressed emotions. And then I learned that you have to be kind to yourself. So that's where I started. And, the journaling was fun. I like journal speak. Like, I got into journal speaking, which is like, if you're not familiar, journal speak is journaling to, like, get your negative emotions out. It's like you take it there. You go to the end of the line, and then you go further. You get to be dramatic. You get to hate everyone. You get to kill off everyone. You get to tell it like you really feel it, no caveats, and then you literally go even deeper. So I, got into that, and I'm still into that. I think journal speak is great. So, I started writing about my upbringing, my parents, how much I hate my body, how much pressure there is to have a certain kind of body as a gay man, and how I hate being gay, and how I hate that I have to be myself. Like, of all the people in this world, why did I have to be me, the worst one? Um, this is like taking it there and then further. And parts of me believe that, even though I obviously parts of me don't. Um, I was writing about how much I hated my childhood, even though, my childhood was quote unquote good. And I was writing about how much I hate that I have to pretend my childhood was good because it obviously wasn't. Um, so this was the beginning of going deeper. There was a lot more, like, depth to reach into, but this was the beginning of going deeper and having a deeper relationship with my emotions and a deeper relationship with my true self. I was already a therapist at this time. So I already had some kind of relationship with my emotions. I had already been in therapy a lot. So I was not, this is not brand new to me by any stretch, but this was different. This was different. Those early days of journal speak, I remember, were much more about expressing how much I hated myself. And as time went on, I got more into blaming my problems less on only myself and more like fairly in a balanced way, blaming my problems on both internal and external factors. And I just want to share this here as kind of an important sidebar. Um, because that's good to find a balance there. Like, some advice to you: if you hate yourself, but you don't find fault in others, like, it's time to shift that. Also, if you hate everyone, but you don't really find fault in yourself, it's also time to shift that. Like a place of balance in a more that's a more real and true place to be. But in the beginning, I was very skewed towards like, I hate myself. How did I turn out like this? Why is my life like this? Why am I so miserable? Everyone is great and normal and perfect, and something's wrong with me. I was really in like a internal blaming, like internalizing everything is me, everything's my fault, self-hate. I was really in that place. And those are the emotions I was feeling. So that's where I had to start. I had to start with that side of the emotional work. And while this was happening, I was like, this was exciting. I was very excited about the prospect of healing. Like my hip, the pain was never like debilitating per se, depending on what you like consider debilitating. But it was bad. Like it was bad. I was avoiding a lot of things like running, stretching, leg workouts, anything that involved one leg going in front of the other. Like I was avoiding a lot of things that I would really like to do to just like live life and feel good in my body. So I was like, okay, what if this hip pain is fully TMS? Like, what if? Because then that would mean I can actually do all these workouts. That would mean I can work out my legs freely. That means I can maybe even run. That means I can use a treadmill. That means, like, and then I was like, wait, wait, wait. That means I could even, like, do you think I could try to stretch my splits again? So I was doing a very important part of TMS and neuroplastic healing. You can hear this. I was questioning my triggers. I was questioning my triggers. And folks, I implore you, if you're on this path, I implore you, question your triggers as well. Question your triggers. It could open your life up big time. Okay. So I was questioning my triggers and I started challenging my triggers. I started doing new workouts and I was like, well, um, if this really is TMS, like, uh, of course, I'm scared because I'm like, is it? Like, is my hip pain really TMS? Like, sure, all these people with back pain, they have TMS, but my hip pain, is that TMS? Like, but I was like, if I could do the splits again, that would prove to myself, that would be proof that I have to believe, that this is TMS. So, I was scared, but I tried it out. And I wasn't that far from the floor actually, which I mean, like, it wasn't like I could like do it again right away or anything like that took time. But once you gain flexibility, you don't like lose it very easily actually. So I wasn't that far from the floor. So I was like, let me try to work on this. And this will be a test. So by this time, I had downloaded the Curable app and they had stuff about graded exposure. So I was like, okay. I was like visualizing myself. Then I got these little blocks to like prop myself up. And I was like, well, I know how to do this. Like, you just stretch out a few times a week. And as long as you don't have any terrible injuries, which I obviously believed that I had until this moment when I was questioning that logic. But I was like, I know how this goes. Like, as long as you don't have any terrible injuries, if you're stretching regularly, like, you progress. And folks, it did hurt. Challenging yourself hurts. Challenging myself and doing the graded exposure, like, it triggered pain. But I learned that triggering TMS pain is different than injuring yourself. Even though it feels like the same thing, triggering TMS pain is different than injuring yourself. TMS pain hurts, but it does not harm you. TMS pain is not indicative of any tissue damage. It is the brain and the nervous system being triggered. So, well, it looks like I didn't have any terrible injuries because after some time stretching out I think this was at age 34, lo and behold, I got my splits back when I couldn't do it all through my 20s. So I was like, all right, this is crazy. I'll be damned, and this undeniably works. Okay, and you can see the, photo on the cover of this episode, and, there's me just, like, getting silly with it, like, standing, balancing and shit, and, it's a fun skill to have because, like, people are kinda like, "Wow," and, the gym that I go to, it's, like, all these, like, many, like, super masculine dudes who, like, you watch, like, the smaller guys go up to the bigger guys and, they're like, "Damn, what do you do for your chest?" Or like, "What do you do for your tris?" And like, "The way you just did that muscle up, bro, that's crazy." And, now I'm the guy at the gym who people literally come up to as well, and they're like, "Dude, how do you do that? How do I train for that? That's crazy." And, I get that flexibility isn't everyone's, like, desired skill, of course, like, I get that, but I'm like, it is a skill that I, am good at now and have been in the past and am good at again, and I actually have now, and, that's because of the mind-body connection and because of neuroplasticity, and how cool is that? And I will also say this, picture, if you can see the picture of the episode cover, this picture has been on, my profile on some gay apps, and I will just tell you this picture has performed pretty well in those spaces, okay? So, thank God for the mind-body connection, bringing good content to the gays and giving the people what they want, which is great. And I recognize it is a little, nuts to talk about, but, you are a human. I am a human. The gays on the apps are humans too, and, like, we are meant to have fun with our bodies. Enjoyment is meant to be part of life, right? Like, we are meant to have fun. Maybe it's not considered, like, professional to talk about, like, pictures on my app profiles. It's not maybe considered professional in the traditional sense. Um, but the body is a big part of life, and I am a somatic therapist, so, like, it is actually quite professional to me to talk about the body and to talk about this kind of stuff, even if it's not, like, speaking in the Queen's English or, like, it's not becoming, it's not ladylike, it is human. So we talk about it. On this podcast, we talk about it because it's there. It is there, so we talk about what's really there. Okay, so this is sounding like, a funny story, a success story, and it is a success story, but chronic pain is complicated. Chronic pain is complicated. The triggers for TMS are psychological and emotional, they are not physical. And like I said before, physical activity can trigger TMS pain because the brain psychologically deems it to be dangerous. Like, so, physical activity can trigger TMS pain, but the physical activity triggers the TMS pain because the physical activity triggers the fear and the threat response. And that fear and threat response triggers the TMS pain. So there's a mediating force there. Um, and I feel I'm great proof of this process of TMS pain being triggered emotionally and psychologically rather than physically because I then became a fully grown adult man who could do splits and not really have pain triggered, but I could still get terrible hip pain from like a random Tuesday sitting around doing nothing or from a difficult conversation or a long too many things in a row day or just a Saturday where I feel like everything's fine, but my hip is in agony or whatever it may be. Any stressor, any emotional stressor, conscious or unconscious, that could still cause hip pain. And so the work is not done. And still the work is not done. So I kept up the emotional exploration. I got my own TMS therapist, which was truly invaluable. This is an important part of the journey. Truly invaluable. Liz Wallenstein, took me much deeper into developing a positive relationship with myself. Like, I didn't even really know what that was until my hip pain brought me to Liz Wallenstein, and she saw me as a person. She saw me as a person more than I saw myself as a person. She saw me as a real person in a way that, like, in my childhood and upbringing, I had gotten judgmental conditioning from many angles. You should be this way. You should be this way. You shouldn't be that way. And you definitely shouldn't be that way. And that conditioning had been laid in very deep, so deep that previous therapy didn't get deep enough to really impact that. I was defended, but this therapy took me deeper because this therapy was focused on trusting my body. And this therapy was focused on trusting how I felt. And I felt a lot of pain. This helped me go deeper because I knew a lot more now. And I knew I had to feel my real emotions. And I knew I was repressing stuff. And I knew what chronic pain meant now. And I knew that I had to trust my emotions. I had to feel my emotions. I had to trust my body, and I had to honor what my body felt. So I was open and I was down to do deeper work. I was not super defended because I believed in this and I wanted to recover from chronic pain. So I got into treating myself, like my true, honest self, with kindness to the best of my ability, after being through a lot of interpersonal trauma. Um, And the hip, it kept getting better, better and better, and better and better and better. And I'd be like, "Oh my god, I no longer have chronic hip pain." And then it would fluctuate and it would get worse again, and I would be like, "But this was basically gone. Why is it here? Why is it back?" I'm like, "It's always fucking something." So I kept journeying, kept plugging along, kept on the path, and it continues. It's like, "Oh, now it's gone. Now it's gone. Now I'm out of chronic pain now." And then it's like, "Oh, damn it, it's back. It is back." And so frustrating it's back. But of course I'm like, don't be frustrated. But I am. You know how it is. This is the messy middle. And I've worked so many different angles, so many different energies that I've worked with for healing this. And now many years have gone by of this healing, and I've worked, like I said, with many different energies for healing. I keep having epiphanies, and the epiphanies I have are always just deeper versions of the basic things that I already know. It's always the epiphanies are always deeper versions of the basic things that I already know. All my new epiphanies go right back to the psychological work, the emotional work, and attuning to my true self. They all fit right back into that. And I think that's why I feel so confident in that stuff, because every time something new that I, like, quote unquote discover, and it helps me, it's always something that is either one, psychological, teaching my brain and my nervous system to feel safe with physical sensations in my body, including pain. Two, emotional, teaching my brain and my nervous system to feel safe with emotions. And three, patiently attuning to my true self, teaching my brain and my nervous system that it is safe to be me. So I'm still at it. I am still at it. And the hip is good sometimes. It is still in pain other times. Overall, it's definitely gotten a lot better, like, wow. Um, but, it's still so frustrating that it's not gone. And I know, like I said, I'm not supposed to be frustrated. Not supposed to be trying to fix myself. I'm supposed to be calm and allowing, and everything I feel is, beautiful and acceptable and safe, and that is hard. If it's hard for you, I get it, because it's hard for me too. It is the right thing to do. I know that. I know that. But it is hard. It is hard. So I'm gonna say a little bit about the angles I'm working now. One thing I'm really leaning into right now is the psychological work. I'm really at a phase now, like, really trying, like I'm talking about, to just lean into allowing the symptoms. Just let them be there. Don't interfere. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Don't resist. Just let it be there. When the pain is there, okay, it's allowed. When the pain is not there, awesome. But if I feel afraid that it'll come back, okay, then the fear is allowed. That is just allowed. And I have to learn to allow myself to feel exactly what I feel. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. A lifetime of resisting myself, resisting my body, resisting my emotions. It's I'm undoing that. Slowly, 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 I am undoing that by just allowing, allowing, and allowing, and then allowing some more. And, I'm also really, really working with the energy of attuning to my true self by, like, just really trying to allow myself to be exactly as I am and to not lose myself. Not to lose myself in people pleasing all the time. One thing I'm working on a lot lately is not to lose myself in obligations. Oh my God. My body is so sick of everyone's obligations. Like, making my life about meeting other people's obligations. I'm so sick of it. Um, and I'm like, Sean, you never, ever, ever really have to do anything that you really don't want to do ever again. Never again. Like, you are an adult. You don't have to see anyone you don't wanna see. You don't have to bend over backwards for anyone you don't wanna bend over backwards for. Like, you have to work, sure, you have to clean up after yourself, do some chores here and there, the such, sure, but, like, you really don't have to do that much that you don't want to do. Enough of your life being ruled by obligations to others. Enough, 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 enough. You do what you wanna do. If other people get hurt, not that I'm not like what I wanna do is, like, shoot up, places. Like, what I wanna do is just, like, things that they make other people be like, "Oh, you didn't do this with me," or, "But you didn't come to the," or, "Why didn't you go with me to the," it's like, "Yeah, because I didn't want to," I didn't want to. And if people hate you for it, that is their loss. And with that logic, I have become slightly less people pleasy and slightly more boundaried. But even then, I could be way, way better, and that is a work in progress for sure. Um, and I'm in the messy middle. I am in the messy middle, and it's not a bad place to be. It's not. It may not be ideal, but it's where I am, and it's truly not a bad place to be. Sometimes the hip pain is gone. Sometimes I'm like, the hip pain is here and I welcome it. Bring it on. Thank you, body, for expressing yourself. You're allowed to feel this. You're allowed to feel whatever you want. Sometimes the hip pain comes on and I'm like, my body is whole and strong and healthy, and I am just a human, and I will let this sensation wash over me, knowing it is totally safe and it is totally allowed. And then it'll go away, and then it'll come back, and maybe when it comes back, I'll respond with rage and fear and frustration and trying to fix it, and, all the Fs that you're not supposed to engage in, and, like, yes, I will engage in the Fs. Sue me. Sue me. I know you do it too. We all do it. Even though we know it's wrong, we all do it because it is normal. That's okay. Just, help yourself move out of that space. You know what to do. I know what to do. It's hard. It's hard to do it. And in the messy middle, sometimes I'm still like, the hip pain is back, and it actually never even left. I have been fooling myself. This has never gotten better. It's all bullshit. And that is wrong. But sometimes I think that too. Sometimes I think that too. So now, where am I at now? I don't limit myself because of the hip pain. Some days it feels like it's just as bad as when I started. Even though I know it isn't because I used to, like I said before, I used to be like, "Remember the leg machine in the corner? I used to be able to do that, and I literally physically cannot do that anymore." It's not like that anymore, so it is. Even the lowest lows are not as bad as they were, um, but I still have those days. And now I have many times where the pain is very low, or basically gone, and that is fucking great. That is fucking great. And then I have days where, like, the my hip is, like, just feeling like, very sensitive. Like, maybe not, like, pain per se, but, like, tension, and it just feels very sensitive and a little raw and a little sore, and I'm like, "You know what? I think that's probably me." Like, I feel very sensitive, and even if I'm not in major pain, like, emotionally, I feel very sensitive, and I feel a little raw. And I feel a little sore after everything I've dealt with in my life, after all the bullshit I've dealt with in my life and, all the stuff I've internalized, all this external harshness that I have internalized. I feel a little sore right now. That is exactly how I feel. And so I'm feeling it. I am feeling it. This is what it feels like to be alive. I'm feeling it, and so are you right now. Tune into your body. Just feel what you feel. This is what it feels like for you to be alive right now. There is no other way. This, exactly this, what you feel right now, this is what you feel. This is what it feels like to be you. The more you allow for that, the more you don't fear that, the more you befriend that, the easier it will feel to be you. Okay, let's wind this down. I fear, of course, that putting out this podcast episode, that I sound like not like a good therapist. I fear that I sound like a very unwell client who like needs to get their shit together and shut up and stop speaking in ways that make them look like bad. Um but I'm also like, I'm committed to telling the truth. Like it or not, think it's professional or not, love it or hate it. I hate the truth sometimes too. I'm committed to telling the truth as best as I can. Um, and while a nice story would be like, my chronic hip pain is completely healed, that's not true. That would not be real. And so I can't say that. I can't say that. Um, I'm committed to telling the truth, as best as I know how. I'm very committed to that. Um, and my God, like, am I therapist or client? Like, I see the 2 as interchangeable. In this work, they are interchangeable, and in life, they are interchangeable. Hello. And, I choose to be worthy no matter what. That's not an easy choice to make, and it's not a choice I make every day, but it's a choice I'm making right now. I choose to be worthy no matter what. As a professional, as a person, as a human, I choose to be worthy no matter what. So, as I continue with recording this podcast over this past year and a little bit, I feel myself getting more confident in myself. Since I started this podcast, I've always been confident in mind body modalities. Like, I've had that confidence for a long time. Otherwise, I literally wouldn't have been able to start the podcast at all, obviously. I know mind body modalities work. Like, I know that. Um, it's just I don't always have confidence that I work, you know? But I am getting more confident in myself. And I wonder if you can all feel that. Like, if you've been following along for a while for the podcast, like, can you tell? Like, can you tell that, like, I am getting more confident in myself? Um, because if you can, I am low key actually kind of humiliated by that because that means I didn't seem as confident before. And I'm like, of course, I want to seem great and arrived and polished and all that at all times, even from like, the beginning of a whole new venture. But life keeps us honest. If we are able to look at it and tell the truth, life keeps us honest. A while back, I listened to an old episode of this podcast, which I don't do that often. I read somewhere, like, as I was starting this, I read, like, as a podcaster, don't go back and revisit your old content yourself too much. Like, put it out there and, like, generally move on to future content. Don't generally, like, get lost in going back to past stuff. And, I'm glad I read that because I think that's very good advice when it comes to your own projects. Because, like, if you look back at your own stuff now, all you want to do is like change what you did in the past, and you can't. But anyway, I did listen back to an old episode a while back, and it was an episode where I was too sheepish to tell you, the listener, to tell all of you that I recommend you see a TMS therapist. And God forbid I was too sheepish to suggest that you should see me or could consider seeing me as your therapist if you have TMS. And yeah, that is where I was at with believing in myself at that time. And luckily I have become more confident since then. And I hope that your mind body process is helping you feel more confident too. Okay? Maybe that's part of your messy middle too. And I will say, if you are looking for a therapist to help you with chronic pain or, other difficult issues in your life, if you're looking for that, you know where to find me. You know where to find me. And, of course, if that's going to be too much money or you're not ready for that or whatever it might be, you also can just listen on. Stick with this podcast, stick with mind body healing. I'm so happy to have you here. Like, you are part of our group. Stay here. Stay here. And definitely stay with the mind body healing. Definitely stay with this. If you have chronic pain, stay with this. Um, because what I will tell you is I don't have everything figured out. I don't have all the answers for you. But here's what I know. I know that your body, I'm talking to you. Yes, your body. I don't trust, I don't think, I know. I know that your body has so much wisdom for you. If you work with me or if you listen to this podcast, we are tapping into that wisdom together. That happens with my clients. That will happen for you. I can offer you that. I know there is wisdom in your body, even if you don't know that about yourself. Even if you don't know that about yourself, I know that about you. I know. Okay, very last thing from the messy middle. I just want to say recently I had a stress dream with like waves, tsunami, it's coming at me. I'm in the water, swimming desperately to shore, trying to get away from the horrifying prospect of like the massive waves, only to put my head up and see there are dueling tsunamis, okay? So one's coming from behind me and one's coming from in front of me. Dueling tsunamis coming from both directions, which, is obviously, at least I hope that's physically impossible, but you know how things in dreams can be. This can only happen in a nightmare, folks. So, dueling tsunamis coming at me from both directions, and I woke up with a jolt, terrified. You know that feeling where you wake up like absolutely terrified, heart racing, and it still feels like it is so real. Um, so I woke up like that, and as I was just there in bed, calming down, I was also thinking like, good, good. I was thinking, good. I was not thinking, I am crazy. Something's wrong with me. I'm too stressed out. I need meds. I was just thinking, good, good. I'm feeling my emotions. And that is good. Okay, little fake out. I said that was the last thing, but this is actually the last thing. Leave a rating or review. This is the actual last thing. There, folks, if you've been following along, there was a time recording this podcast where I was begging you to leave ratings and reviews, and many of you did. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then I stopped begging and the reviews stopped coming in. So now I'm like, if you haven't left a review or a rating yet, and you're a regular listener to the podcast, um, just understand that every time you hear my voice, every time, consider that me begging, okay, for a rating or review. No matter what I'm saying, I want you to read between the lines and understand you can consider that me begging you. Don't make me beg every time, okay? So if you're enjoying what you're hearing, or even if you're not, please take a moment to rate or review. 5 stars, awesome. Not 5 stars, also awesome. I'm not for everyone, and not everybody's going to leave 5 stars. Leave the exact amount of stars that feels right to you. I deeply appreciate it. A rating and review lifts mind body healing up. It legitimizes this conversation for people who need to hear it. This is actually the end now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy healing to all of us. And I'll talk to you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide. Does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world in your body. Do you have difficulties in your life? Maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to become a person who likes yourself. Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? That is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place, and if you're looking for me, I'd welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.